Blackrock, by now we've all heard of them. It's the world's most powerful company, leveraging control over $8.59 trillion in assets under management, roughly 8.5% of the entire world's GDP. However, their power goes far beyond their dollar value. For years, they have hidden in the shadows, scheming and manipulating the world without an ounce of resistance to their evil agenda. They sit in unelected positions like the Chief of National Economic Council and Deputy Treasury Secretary to create the ideal market conditions from which they can benefit whilst everyone else suffers. Where they cannot be, they ensure they are close by in very high and important advisory roles where they whisper into the ears of the leaders of the Western world with such discretion that no one could ever trace these proposals back to them. Eric von Nostrand, the BlackRock managing director, is now a senior advisor to Joe Biden. Mike Pyle, BlackRock's chief investment officer, is now the chief economic advisor to Kamala Harris, the vice president of the United States. Not even the two most powerful politicians in the world are too far from the reach of BlackRock, where they are free to be proposed whatever BlackRock deems necessary to fuel its growth. Recently, however, the tides have been shifting. BlackRock has now been exposed to the world with their meddling hands illuminated on display for the world to see. Scrutiny from both investors and uncorrupted political forces has begun, and the pressure is slowly being applied. The beast that is BlackRock is slowly being squeezed of its lifeblood and only true allegiance capital, something we will delve into later on in this video. But sadly, BlackRock still hold a firm grasp on the media, and videos like this are consistently banned and deleted by YouTube, which means there are things here today which I simply cannot say. But thankfully, my newsletter Stoic Markets is free from censorship and allows me to expose the truth to my subscribers there. You may be asking yourself, what has BlackRock done to develop such a negative reputation in the eyes of the public? What has BlackRock achieved through its infiltration into government? How about buying up an entire town's worth of family homes throughout America that they deflected as multi-family properties, apartment complexes, and other residential real estate? A move which prevents entire communities of young families from buying real estate, keeping them trapped in renting due to upward shift in mortgage prices caused by their monopolistic control over the market. Even in the world of finance, where BlackRock dominates, they will attempt to swallow up anything that moves, even dying firms like Credit Suisse, as it was reported that they were working on a rival bid to bail out their negligent banker friends as part of their plan to expand out their reach further across Europe. Or how about their large-scale profiteering from the tragic war in Ukraine, where BlackRock not only gains from its 16% share of weapons maker Sturm, Ruger & Co., their 6% holdings of Lockheed Martin, 5% of Boeing, 4% of General Dynamics, 6% of Northrop Grumman, and 7% of Raytheon, but also from their exclusive agreement with the government of Ukraine to spearhead the building of Ukraine. And who would have recommended BlackRock step in to finance this? None other than Eric von Nostrand, BlackRock's very own managing director turned senior advisor on economic issues tied to Russia and Ukraine. This agreement, which concerns the $1 trillion worth of damages to Ukraine, will continue to grow by an estimated $4 billion every single week, with the final figure being tallied up and taken out in loans provided by BlackRock, who will stand to make multiple billions on interest. The horrific part isn't that BlackRock is profiteering from this series of tragic events, nor is it that they achieved this deal through exerting their lobbying power in the US government, as well as in the Swiss alpine town of Davos, where the World Economic Forum meets. The most sinister part about BlackRock's activities revolving Ukraine is that through winning this state-mandated monopolistic deal to run all of the investment that Ukraine is going to receive, BlackRock loses all real incentive to lobby for peace. A scenario has been created where BlackRock profits no matter what, and profits at greater margins given that the war is extended. Therefore, the incentive for BlackRock is to create as much chaos as possible, all in the sake of their profits. Simply put, BlackRock only cares about power and money. The morality of obtaining such things does not come into question. Although Larry Fink, the CEO of BlackRock, has been public in his and BlackRock's support of ESG, commonly referred to as the woke credit score for businesses, Fink citing ESG metrics in his annual letter to chief executive officers for numerous consecutive years dating back to 2015, and going as far to proclaim that ESG will create a fundamental reshaping of finance, with climate change becoming a defining factor in BlackRock's long-term prospects. In his 2020 annual letter addressing investors, it appears more likely that these addresses for just smoke and mirrors to divert attention from their less admirable investing activities. Some of these activities include their at least $85 billion invested into the global coal industry, according to data collected by German non-profit climate organization Ergworld in 2020, and $91 billion worth worth of investments to Texas-based oil and gas firms including ExxonMobil. Now this makes Larry Fink's planet-saving talk look rather hypocritical, doesn't it? Regardless, these are two smaller investments as part of the total $260 billion into fossil fuel business, a figure that was announced by BlackRock's very own head of external affairs, Dalia Blas, who also stated that we are the world's largest investor in fossil fuel companies, and as a long-term investor in these companies, we want to see these companies succeed and prosper. Now, why would they feel comfortable announcing these figures to the Texas Senate Committee on State Affairs in January when they have so actively and publicly encouraged ESG? Now, this isn't to say that BlackRock has not been operating without any issues or opposition. In fact, it's quite the opposite, this video being proof. BlackRock might own 7% of Fox News, 5% of News Corp, 8% of Comcast, and even 6% of Google, but the resistance is building outside of legacy media, this video being evidence. They might shadow ban this video or demonetize it so that it's buried so far deep down that the impact is minimized, but they cannot stop you from watching and finding out the truth. Oh, how they would like to do all of that, how they would like to silence my voice, given that BlackRock has been given a board seat at almost every single publicly traded company. It's highly probable that one day they might actually manage to do so. But thankfully there is a solution here in the form of my email newsletter Stoic Markets. It exists solely to ensure the truth can reach you in a way the mainstream media and elites can't stop it, and believe me, they've tried. Countless times now my videos have been deleted, demonetized, and my channel threatened with outright annihilation, and if I were to reveal everything on this video, I am sure without a doubt that would happen. But fear not, because in exactly 7 days I'll be revealing all, exposing exactly what I can't in this video, and all you need to do to find out the truth is to join my free newsletter. The link is down below in the description. You can unsubscribe anytime, no questions asked if you want to, but I guarantee you'll be satisfied if you click that link, so I'll see you there. Fortunately for us, the focus isn't entirely on our exposés yet, as we have joined a growing legion of people who have been blowing off the lid on all of BlackRock's schemes. Figures such as Glenn Beck, a Republican political commentator, have repeatedly taken aim in videos titled "BlackRock uses your money to push ESG and far-left plans." And Saudi Arabia's investment into BlackRock proves ESG is a scam. Even Sam Bankman-Fried, who prior to being exposed after scamming millions of people for billions of dollars using his crypto exchange FTX, he was lauded for running one of the best ESG businesses in the world, and he was quoted as saying that ESG has been perverted beyond recognition. This alone is a telltale sign that ESG is a scam. SBF was able to pull in billions of dollars into his firm using this seal of approval when in fact his organization was corrupt and involved large-scale criminal fraud. However, the minute that Sam Bankman-Fried was caught, like all rats, he squealed, blowing the lid off to the millions about how ESG scores are being used by the powers that be to manipulate the inflows of public invested capital into companies they own, thereby increasing the value of their investments with no risk. This perverted form of ESG, which SBF refers to, is again blatantly seen in the events that surround Elon Musk's message throughout 2022, which highlights the absurd fact that ExxonMobil, an oil giant, has been listed in the top 10 companies in the world as beneficial for the environment. What was even more ludicrous was that they were able to manipulate their credit scores so much that even Tesla, Musk's electric car company, was booted off the list entirely. With the large amounts of international attention that Musk and SBF had brought upon ESG in its fraudulent forms, it was only a matter of time before the outraged public took justice into our own hands and showed the creators of this ESG scam that we can and will fight back against their tyranny. On the 6th of April 2023, hundreds of French protesters stormed BlackRock's Paris office, holding red flares and firing smoke bombs, making their way into the ground floor of the building and sending the message to BlackRock that despite all the power they wield, when we stand together, we are stronger and have the power to tear down anything they've built. This brave display of resistance from the French protesters symbolizes a greater message to big corporations like BlackRock that the tide is turning and war has now begun. We now know who they are and where we can hurt them. New issues for BlackRock are beginning to emerge every day, and it stands to reason that confidence in the company is at an all-time low. Again, I can't cover all of them here on YouTube lest the ban hammer rain down upon me, but I can expose everything on Stoic Markets, my free newsletter, so click the link down below to learn more for free and get the information the mainstream media is terrified for you to have. Internal confidence of the company is typically shown through the general flow of trading activities from insider shareholders, with a major indicator of doubt and fear being seen in the form of a large deficit of insider trading of outflows. This can be examined within Blackrock, where Larry Fink's trading activities show us that he has sold 17% of his stake in the company over the last 6 months. According to filings, Fink sold a total of 41,000 shares across 4 transactions on Tuesday the 22nd of November, where he netted circa $30 million and dropped 10% of his stake in the company. This was followed by a 7% sale of Fink's stakes in the company across 3 transactions in April, resulting in a $25 million deposit into his account. This is something that Fink wishes no one would pay attention to. Why else would he dump such a large quantity of his stock across so many transactions just quarters apart? Perhaps he received an advanced warning from Brian Deese, one of his former executives who now runs the National Economic Council, that the US government plans to revert the definition of a recession back to normal, as he had previously changed it so that Biden could claim all things are fine and dandy. Or perhaps BlackRock's first quarter reported earnings for 2023, which fell 18% year on year, is a larger issue than claimed by the firm, which cited the impact of significantly lower markets and dollar appreciation on average assets under management and lower performance fees. If these revenues continue to decrease for a 6th or even 7th quarter, investors are likely to sniff out that BlackRock is slowly failing and cause a rush to pull money from within the company, crashing the share price and stripping the company of its power. With this in mind, it's no wonder that Fink would be squeezing out all he can from the firm he co-founded and ran since 1988. And with the potential of a bank run hanging overhead if revenues don't improve, credibility has become more important than ever for BlackRock, something which would explain Fink's decision to move away from ESG after the last 10 biggest ESG funds in the US posted double-digit losses in 2022. ESG, which was so heavily pushed by BlackRock for the last 7 years and which we all know is garbage, has now seemingly become a matter of non-importance for the firm, as Fink admitted to a conference organized by the New York Times in November that BlackRock would push for ESG policies, but only if it's in the interest of shareholders and that they focus on sustainability, not because we're environmentalists, but because we're capitalists and fiduciaries to our clients. Truly, ESG has only been of interest to those with a political agenda rather than to shareholders, as evidenced by the 2 shareholder resolutions raising climate concerns, which won less than 10% of support from shareholders at a meeting back in January. I've been exposing ESG for ages now on my email newsletter Stoic Markets, and thanks to independent journalists and those willing to expose the truth, Fink's attempt to remain hidden within the political sphere has failed, and Republican states have started to take fire. Back in August, 19 Republican state attorney generals signed a letter accusing BlackRock of favoring its ESG commitments at the expense of pension fund profits, and then began to pull their money from BlackRock funds, striking the firm at its core, starting with the Arkansas state treasurer. He stripped out $125 million from money market accounts managed by BlackRock, citing the firm's active global political activity. This was then followed in Louisiana and Missouri, with BlackRock now losing over $3 billion from these withdrawals. However, pressure actually appears to be building on both sides of the political spectrum, and BlackRock can't win in this ESG fiasco they created for themselves. Late last year, Bluebell Capital, an activist investor, accused BlackRock of greenwashing, a term used to describe when a company makes an environmental claim about something the organization is doing that is intended to promote a sense of environmental impact that doesn't actually exist. Bluebell Capital called upon BlackRock to replace Larry Fink after the firm told a UK parliamentary committee that it would not stop investing in coal, oil and gas, and it was revealed that ESG standards were only applied to the firm's actively managed funds and not passive exchange traded funds that make up 3/4 of its assets. As this pressure compiles, it's likely that we will see Democrat states start to pull money from BlackRock funds, given Fink's position seemingly suggesting that he will not choose a side. The old adage which states that it's impossible to draw blood out of a stone is in fact incorrect. BlackRock is bleeding and harder than ever. The pressures are mounting up for the firm, and the wound that is ESG is being pressed down upon by all sides. But we must not be fooled. The war against corporatism is not over. BlackRock will continue to fight, even on its back foot till the very end, without any regard for humanity, but together, just like the French protesters who sieged their offices, we can defeat them. To do that though, we need information and we need the truth, and it's never been harder to get the truth out of the internet than it is today, as everything is controlled by corporate interests. But somehow, email emails stand as the perfect decentralized network where truth can flow freely, and that's exactly why I've built Stoic Markets, to ensure that I can get the truth out to you without the elites getting in the way. And in exactly 7 days, I'm going to be sending out an email to all those who sign up with the link down below in the description with all the information that couldn't be posted here today. It's 100% free, both from censorship and in cost to you. Just make sure to verify your email after signing up, and I'll see you all there.